I can't find a good Tajweed teacher is perhaps the single most reported complaint in my experience from both adult students and parents looking for a Quran teacher for their children. I believe this is highly disingenuous unless one has exhausted all the avenues of looking for a good Quran teacher, as we will discuss in this presentation with my top 11 reasons why you can't find a good Quran teacher. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to HealMyTech Ltd, helping you read. First part of this presentation will address the inner barriers to learning which we can control, and the second part will address the external forces which, as you have probably guessed, we cannot control. And finally, I will give you a brief real-life example of my own Tajweed journey and offer you a practical solution to finding a good Quran teacher. Reason 1: where there is a will, there is a way. You do not want to learn. It's as simple as that. Nobody can argue that if any individual really wants to do something, they will stop at nothing to achieve it, unless Allah wills otherwise through insurmountable barriers. This could be for health or natural calamities reasons, big things. Think about any project that you have undertaken in the past which may have been really difficult and even sometimes goes against people's advice, but you went ahead and did it anyway and proved everyone wrong. So ask yourself, do you really want to study the Quran, or are you just blowing smoke? So it's time to go back and revisit your intention. Reason number 2: looking but not really looking. You're not looking, it's simple. Maybe you look once or twice or 3 times, but did you look a 4th and a 5th? And did you keep looking until you found one, or have you stopped? When was the last time you were actively looking? The answer should be yesterday, and you will be looking today after you finish reading or watching this piece. But if the answer was you were looking for a teacher last month, or last year, or last decade, then you are not really looking, are you? Never stop looking. Reason number 3: looking in the wrong place. If you looked for a local teacher and couldn't find one, have you tried online? Some people expect to sit with a sheikh under a tree in the desert somewhere, or they will do nothing else. In the recent past, when I have offered free Tajweed sessions to some brothers online, they declined, insisting that they must sit with a teacher physically, otherwise it's nada. Whilst online is not ideal for many, it's better than having no teacher at all whilst you continue to look for a local teacher. I wrote this piece before the global COVID-19 pandemic. From 2020 onwards, it almost looks like it's the opposite, with many now having no choice but to look for online teachers. However, this only reverses the priority of where to look. If you are looking online without luck, you should be considering local teachers even for remote connection. Reason number 4: fi sabilillah. You don't want to pay. Some people demand and expect everything to be fi sabilillah when it concerns anything to do with Islam. The very same people might be willing to spend frivolous amounts of money on secular education or even overindulge in unnecessary worldly goods, but for their Islamic studies, they expect a completely free pass. This presentation is not about whether one can charge for teaching the Quran or not. That's a discussion for another time. You can ask your local masajids, where they occasionally organize free courses. People don't turn up, or if they do, it's full on day 1, but soon enough there's hardly anyone left. When people don't pay for something, they don't value it. Reason number 5: unrealistic expectations. You want an effortless or really easy learning experience. Yes, there might be a teacher who will teach you, but they might live a little far or might not be available all the time, etc. If it's online, there might be issues with connection speed or hardware limitations like audio problems and other difficulties. The point is that you may be expecting perfect conditions without making efforts or sacrifice. Understand this: nothing worth having in life comes easy. So lower your expectations. It's better to have a little of a good thing rather than nothing of a perfect thing. Now let's deal with factors outside of your control. Reason number 6: the theory-practice gap. Some teachers only focus on Tajweed courses and neglect the recitation and correction part. Yes, you can undertake a theoretical Tajweed course even of the highest level and learn all the Tajweed terminologies like qaqalah, ikhfa, and so on. But if you have not practiced reciting to a teacher and be corrected, that course means very little. And guess what? It takes years to become proficient in reciting the Quran or anything else for that matter. Think about a child who goes to madrasa every day after school. How many years do they need to attend until they become proficient? Think about a hafiz. Learning the sciences of the Quran is a lifelong commitment. Unfortunately, teachers and students who focus on correcting recitation are few and far between, whilst Tajweed courses are aplenty. I know very good reciters who do not know many of the names of the Tajweed rules, which is not obligatory anyway, but who can recite beautifully with excellent Tajweed. Conversely, I know of students who have learned almost all the Tajweed terminologies but cannot recite correctly. You need to find a teacher who will give you a good balance of both. In most cases, you should be focusing on the practical correction aspect of Tajweed. Reason 7. Teacher to student ratio. Madrasas are overwhelmed with an unhealthy teacher to student ratio. This is a systematic failure, and organizations that offer madrasa style programs like these need to take responsibility first and foremost. Even if there are good teachers in that madrasa, they are quickly overwhelmed, and due to the sheer volume of students, it is almost impossible to provide quality education. I have experience in a few madrasas as a teacher, and I have heard these words: we need bums on seats. Whilst I understand from a business perspective that an organization will have expenses to cover, they must find a balance with a teacher to student ratio. For a single hour session, to be efficient, I personally believe that a teacher cannot handle more than 5 students at a time. You could argue for 2 hours it may be 10 students, but unfortunately scaling up is not uniform but rather relative. And I would argue that if you had 2 hours, then work with 5 students, even with more quality, and charge accordingly rather than doubling the number of students. Reason number 8. Daylight robbery. Some teachers charge too much, which is in contrasting opposition to point number 4, fi sabilillah. You might argue that if the quality is there, maybe it's justified. But unfortunately, perhaps like myself, you have experienced situations where not only the charge was exorbitantly high, but the quality wasn't there either. Some people simply cannot afford very high fees, and whilst I know there are institutions which provide fee waivers for low-income families, there are still some who don't. At least there are individual teachers who do not offer rebates. Reason number 9. Sexism. Some sisters only want female teachers. Let me share with you something one of my teachers said. Quote, "Female teachers do not make good teachers." End quote. His words, not mine. But before you start replying, wait for the explanation. When I asked him why, he said that female teachers are seldom tested or accountable, as they do not usually recite publicly, like leading regular prayers, and therefore do not have to uphold as strong a quality as male reciters. Allahu alam. Do I agree? I can see why he thinks that. He did add though that if the sister prefers a female teacher, then that's fine. He was referring to a more general statement, and in the grand scheme of it all, maybe he does have a point. Whether you agree or not, the fact that some sisters will only recite to a female teacher, and it's within their right, even if it's only a preference thing. However, the reality is there are not enough good female Quran teachers to cater for all the sisters. Additionally, let's not forget that our mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, who was one of the greatest, earliest female scholar of Islam, if not the greatest, and that many of the male companions of the Prophet ﷺ continue to seek knowledge from her, of course from behind a screen and within other Islamic boundaries. So as long as both the teacher and student can satisfy all the conditions regardless of gender, it is something to be considered in consultation with your mahram. And likewise, if you are a male and the only available teacher is a female, don't just dismiss this as an option whilst you continue to look for another male teacher, preferably. Reason number 10, with great power comes great responsibility. Some teachers do not want to teach. Fact. And that may include yours truly. Actually, those of you who have followed my channel for a while would know that I stopped teaching completely a couple of years ago. That was partly out of frustration due to the systematic problem that teaching can present, partly because I had my main tech work to focus on, and partly because I did not want to turn Quran teaching into a main source of income. I did feel terrible about this. It is an amana which I was not fulfilling, hence why I decided to offer these regular twice weekly sessions on You Recite, I Correct Live on YouTube, entirely fi sabilillah for anyone and everyone regardless of age and gender. The point is, there are good skilled Quran teachers who should be teaching, but for many reasons they choose not to do so. Reason number 11, unqualified teachers. And that brings me to perhaps the biggest, single most important reason of all. Our ummah has a number of black sheep, of charlatans, of people who are known as teachers but who neither have the proper qualifications nor skills to teach. The blame is on those teachers and those organizations which employ them. You would not be happy if your GP surgery had unqualified doctors or your children's school had unqualified teachers. You would protest and kick a big fuss. So why would you tolerate that the madrasa where you are sending your children has so-called teachers who do not have the qualifications nor the permission to teach the Book of Allah? But this is not parents' fault, at least not as the first responsible parties. It is up to those teachers and those organizations, and I stand by this. And I'm not saying this happens everywhere, but it happens more than you may know. So wherever you look, unfortunately, the more common available choices will be those teachers and organizations. It's a systematic problem. If the problem was only in my locality, you could argue that I am being biased and this is a single local issue. But it's been 7+ years since my exposure to the world of Tajweed on a global scale, and every single teacher I speak to from around the country reports the same problem, and even internationally from some Muslim countries. However, I have to disclaim that there are some countries like Egypt where I'm told good teachers are easy to find, and that in those countries it's probably the opposite. They can't find good students, and Allah knows best. What's my solution to this? I have none except wishful thinking. Perhaps some sort of universal vetting by recognized scholars of Tajweed with a renewable license to teach, clearly displayed and available for the public to verify for every single teacher. Can you think of a practical solution? So those were my 11 reasons as to why you cannot find a good Quran teacher. This is not an exhaustive list, and it is only based upon my experience and from the feedback I have received from other teachers and students. Your mileage may vary. If you know of other reasons, jot them down below in the comments. This is my very brief story. I only started learning Tajweed in 2013, that's around 7+ years ago, and that was because I needed to teach my own children. In lieu of my unique situation at the time, I decided to study online as opposed to looking for a local teacher. Again, because that was my best choice then. So I enrolled into a degree program which also had a full Tajweed module with an established online Islamic education platform. I can tell you the course was not easy. The knowledge was there, no doubt. All the teachers were fantastic, clearly experts in their field. But the online study experience was awful. The video resources were of poor recording quality. The communication with the teachers and admin was very difficult, and there was a huge element of self-study. I would even say majority was self-study. I was left confused a number of times, and I had to reread the same lessons, rewatch the videos, ask questions, Google answers, listen to reciters, and try to make sense of what I was learning. Was it ideal? Of course not. But we go back to some of the points mentioned earlier. Don't expect to have it easy. You have to make efforts and sacrifice if you're seeking knowledge. Quick point, I have not yet completed the degree course, but I did complete the full Tajweed course. Afterwards, I went on to seek local and online teachers to continue reciting and to be corrected, and I'm still reciting till today. So what's the practical solution? If you're having genuine difficulties locating a good local teacher, then try online. There are many options for brothers, but very few for sisters. One personal recommendation for sisters is run by Tajweed Made Easy Academy Global, link below. I recently came across their institution fully staffed by female teachers and for sisters only. I have enrolled a member of my family onto their course, and I have followed the teaching method and student learning experience, and I have spoken to the head of the institution directly. Therefore, I am happy to recommend. This is not a sponsored recommendation, and I have no monetary gains from them. However, we may work together in the near future to continue promoting teaching and learning the Book of Allah. What else can you do? I have been hosting a unique program since Ramadan 2020 on my YouTube channel, HealMyTech Ltd. Please subscribe, where viewers from around the world call in live to recite through Cisco WebEx meetings or Google Meet, and that's broadcasted live on YouTube. This was a unique and unprecedented program. Viewers were joining me live twice weekly, on Fridays for the entire Surah Al-Kahf and on another day for Juz Amma and Surah Al-Fatiha for beginners. Unfortunately, I have halted that program for now due to still being a one-man show and unable to find people to help with the project. This was completely feasibilillah, so funding is an issue, and if I were to continue the program, I need to raise regular funds, inshallah, even if it is to pay a moderator who will filter the live callers during the show. And last but not least, I am not taking students at this moment in time. My goal is to create more awareness through the Tajweed channel, and I am currently redoing my previous videos to make them more professional and with other new content. These will be uploaded onto YouTube, and there will be accompanying notes you will be able to download, including some form of Tajweed courses, inshallah. When I am able to, I will also try to provide you with a qualified teacher to correct your Tajweed. Details on my work in progress website, link below. If you are a teacher or you wish to help in any way, shape or form, please get in touch with me. Again, details below. Consider subscribing to be notified of those future live classes and other upload schedules. Please donate generously to the project through PayPal, paypal.me/HealMyTech, or through Western Union. Bank details in the description below. Your contribution will be considered as Sadaqah Jariyah as I put everything back onto the platform. This was Ashik from HealMyTech, helping you read. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.